To the second panel discussion for the day, titled Deriving Fast, Trustworthy Insights for Timely, Critical Business Decisions. A very good afternoon, and thank you for attending our Digi-Live event today. Hi, my name is Paul, and I'm the editor of DSAI at CDOTrends. This means I cover topics around data science and artificial intelligence. As you may have surmised by now, I'll be moderating this panel today. If there's one thing I've realized as the editor of DSAI, it would be that organizations no longer doubt the importance of data. And with COVID, the need for digital transformation has never been clearer. But the question is this: how can organizations get to the other side of actionable insights and being able to make critical business decisions with accurate data? Well, that's what we are here to discuss for the next 45 minutes. But before I start, a quick housekeeping announcement. Now, there'll be a couple of polls later. Do participate and you'll be placed in lucky draw. Please ask questions too if you have any. The best audience questions, as agreed by the panelists, will get a prize, as well as the first 3 valid questions. So are you ready? Let's get started. I have with me a really experienced panel of panelists, and without saying too much, let's let them introduce themselves. So can we have Juliana start first, followed by Surab, Jacqueline, and Gerard. Juliana.
Hi everybody, I'm Juliana. So I'm the regional head of SLR Group. We are actually the ones who are making the lenses for all your spectacles, and we operate multiple global worldwide with about 150,000 employees. So I take care of the markets in Asia, Middle East, Russia, and South Africa. Nice to meet everybody.
Juliana, could you add in maybe what frustrates and energizes you at work?
What frustrates me at work is when we have a big blueprint and that could never actually launch, and we keep discussing and aligning how to do it. I think what excites me is actually when we do experimentation, we test and fail, and also we learn how to pivot and reach the eventual vision that we want to achieve as well.
Sounds great. Thank you. Surab?
Hi, everyone. My name is Saurabh Chitrachar, and I work with Liberty Mutual. I'm a regional director and VP for IT strategy and transformation based out of Singapore. And in this particular role, I'm responsible for ensuring that we are aligning our business strategy with the IT strategy, ensuring that it's not just about, a PowerPoint strategy, but also ensuring that the execution happens in the right way, ensuring that the investments which we are making in the technology bets are giving us the right business outcome, which definitely helps us align with the business. And at the same time, I'm involved in a lot of transformational initiatives within the organization, ranging from data to cloud to improvement of customer experience, etc. So, and what excites me, I'll start with probably what frustrates me. What frustrates me is monotony. I cannot stand monotony, and I need to be on my toes. And what excites me is basically a good work environment and also challenges. Unless and until I have challenges, that's, if monotony is kind of frustrating. So obviously if I have challenges, that's what makes me excited. So thank you. Looking forward to the discussion.
We asked Anthony to ask harder questions.
I'll try to answer.
Jacqueline, please. Jacqueline, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Classic faux pas. I'm Jacqueline. I am the Chief Digital Officer for HGC Global Communications. We are a fixed line service provider, global in almost 30 countries around the world. And we're looking very much to expand our reach specifically in Asia. We're finding, there's tremendous growth of people wanting to be connected and stay connected, and the amount of uptake, especially in Asia, of content, any sort of content. We are so hungry, you know, in this region for anything that's new. And so we're seeing a tremendous growth in our industry, and we're looking very forward to expanding. So as the Chief Digital Officer, you can imagine I am therefore really quite busy. And you know, amongst other things, I look after the digital transformation, both internal and external to our customers, the UI, UX part, data, of course, and our core technology. And that really keeps me quite busy every day, I think.
I can imagine. Thank you so much. Garrett, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Garrett. So I'm a data science strategist and a stalwart. So I have a vision, you know, my big vision is to, you know, build a smarter world for all humanity, leveraging on the arts of data science. And I'm the head of AI, artificial intelligence for SM Money. So over here, you know, what we do is, you know, in Thailand, we offer like an e-wallet for, you know, everyone here. So if you walk into like a 7-Eleven, you know, into the shops here in Thailand, you can, you know, make payment with your e-wallet, which is True Money Wallet. And as the head of AI for SM Money, right, I take care of the, you know, all the data strategies. And, you know, with a mission to really, you know, set up this, the advanced analytics department to make SM Money a smarter company, you know, to make smarter decisions in terms of, you know, their operations, you know, in terms of their strategy, organizational strategy, and the market expansion. So, you know, I'm also, you know, quite busy here in SM Money. So I take care of like 3 business units. So one with, you know, our True Money Thailand, and we also have like international businesses as well with within the ASEAN countries to 5 other ASEAN countries. And we also have financial services products that, you know, we offer lending products, insurance, you know, and also like a wealth savings plan as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. To all panelists, thank you for taking your precious time off to join us here. Now, before we send off the first question, can we have the first poll? So you can take your time while we talk about the first question. Okay, let's launch the first poll. Okay, so my panelists, first question, right? Do you have any tips or suggestions around how organizations can quickly derive value from their data? I mean, we all know data is important, but the question is how to do it, right? I mean, nobody wants to do it, you know, go up the mountain for 3 years to set up a data warehouse. And by the time you come down, the world has moved on, right? So what are some quick ways they can derive value? Any suggestions? Maybe Gary, want to start first?
Sure. Yeah. So I think, you know, most of all, most importantly, you know, if we are looking for the quick wins or the lowest hanging fruits to, you know, look for the insights on the data, right? The first fundamental questions, I think, which is the most important, which is, you know, to define the objective first. Like, you know, what is the company, like, or the corporate strategy? What do they want to do, you know, with their data, right? So let's say, for example, you know, they want to, like, let's say, hey, can we explore whether this new service, you know, will help us to expand our reach to the market? So the most, you know, important question is, does this product or new service helps us to expand the reach? Then therefore we can go to the data and see, okay, what kind of the data, you know, as a result of the operations or the transactions from this new service that, you know, we can dig into, and then, you know, what kind of the insights can we find? And then how do we define the success, right? Success is defined as, okay, so if let's say we can, you know, build the POC or like a, you know, a use case that, you know, the success is defined by, you know, if this, you know, new service as a result can bring us like an X percentage increase in the revenue for this new market, then, you know, this, you know, this kind of the analytics work will work, you know, for this kind of a project. So most importantly, you know, define the objective with a very clear objective, and then define, you know, how to measure the success of this data strategy. That's really, really important. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I think what you're saying is that don't put the cart before the horse, have a clear objective first, and then, you know, start to look at the data, define success, you know, create use case and POC and so on. Yes. Thank you so much. Maybe you can go around the table. Juliana, what are your thoughts about this?
I was afraid that you would call me, but
it's usually the case, right?
I'm a big fan of experimentation, right? So I think that there are quick ways that we can do this without setting up a data warehouse. I mean, before we look into data analytics, there will be tons and tons of Excel spreadsheets that everybody is collating. And there are quick ways, like if there's a Google Data Studio, there are these free tools that we can actually use, right, to actually already tell the insights, right? So just for example, we were just closing out about 2020 to look at the entire trend line and the observation. So I think that the trend does tells us a story, and I think with the story, it really enables the team to make a justifiable actions, right? What are we going to do next? And a lot of time, I think another quick win is not just experimentation, but also leveraging of the market insights as well. Beyond data, we actually look at or hear to our people on the ground to see whether the data actually matches what they're saying, right? So with this, there could be a composite team effect that we can actually do actionable objectives later on as well. So I think these are how I see we could actually do the quick wins without setting up a big data warehouse. I mean, of course, short of which we are also doing that, but more often than not, all of us will know that setting up a big business intelligence team or data analytics team does take time for the team to form, to build this warehouse, to build the backend, to do all the integration. And if you have this whole big idea, that will take 3 years to come. So I'm a fan of doing experimentation, and I think using the free tools that we have there to actually do this and see what are the next steps. And the most important is to actually get everybody into looking data with a different view, make it simple for people to understand. When I log into Tableau, I think there's so much information that everybody gets lost. You log in and everybody just turn it off, right? So I think how to make it simple such that the high level people could really understand and actually sing the same tune as all of us to actually do the vision and drive the execution as well.
Wow, I like your tips, right? I mean, go with experimentation with off-the-shelf tools, you know, simplify everything for the executives, for team members, and, you know, just look at market insights and, you know, look for supporting data. Thank you so much. Jacqueline or?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'll have a go at it. I think in a practical sense, right? There's always, you know, people from data background, there will always be a lot of opportunities to execute something and in absence of data warehouses or any type of structured data, you've got enough data. And I would always say the easiest and most intuitive part is in the descriptive part, you know, where people are already looking at historicals, people are always looking already, as Juliana said, they already got spreadsheets of some sort. I think the discipline is how you identify what your quick wins are and what looks like low-hanging fruit. Data can become tricky. It looks like it's easy to do, but it's actually not that easy to do. And then once you start pulling on strings, right, you start unraveling this whole thing where you say, oh no, I need more data, or the data's not there, it's not enough data and it's not perfect. So my advice always is just start with what's measured. Your company already has more than enough things they measure, they want to know about, that they don't have sufficient analytics for. So I always err on the side of it's something somebody is already doing. That is your lowest hanging fruit. Is about then adding value and trying to move the dials up, you know, small percentage points or incremental value steps, right? So you know, most companies already have e-commerce sites, websites, or things like that. There's more than enough analytics there. How do you actually then move the dial up, and how do you generate value from those small things? And those things are not that difficult to do. You don't need an army of data scientists to do. The other thing I say is, if you want to then be, you know, a little bit more disciplined with, you know, quick wins and low-hanging fruit, you know, I would agree with the view that you use your available tools, but you also have to use your most available data. You're not always going to have data for every scenario, everything that you want to do. The only question you have to make, and that's where your expertise comes in, is whether there is an acceptable degree of accuracy that can be derived from that data, or acceptable enough insight derived from that data to get you to your first base. Hopefully that's practical advice.
Thank you so much. I think that's really insightful, because I mean, we always talk about the lowest hanging fruit, but I think you nail it on the head by saying, hey, we need to generate value from there. So awesome. Thank you. Surab?
Yeah, I mean, I believe most of the points have already been covered by my fellow panelists, but usually, I'll share an experience. I mean, when we started off in Liberty, I mean, it's an insurance company, so data is key, right? So, I mean, looking at financial benefits, customer insights, etc. And when we embarked on the data lake journey, so one of the most important things, one of the most important questions was, okay, shall we go ahead and start hiring people, start deploying tools which can basically lead to curation of data which, and make it more structured as compared to the unstructured data which we already have. Now, but the most important thing was, defining that business strategy. What exactly do we need from that data, right? I mean, without the lack of the proper strategy, which I think Garrett did cover, I mean, it's impossible to, because it's so wide. I mean, unless you narrow down the scope and be very crisp and clear about what you want and what is the value you get out of that data, it becomes impossible to navigate that whole ocean, right? It's an ocean of data. I mean, and the other thing is, so defining business strategy, understanding the problem statement, and actually then breaking it into pieces to be able to derive the right value is absolutely critical. The second thing which I think is super important is also not getting carried away by, I want to boil the ocean by doing everything which is out there. I mean, we should do more of POCs, like Juliana was mentioning. POC is something which we took up in some of our markets in Thailand and in Vietnam and in Singapore to understand, what is the value. And then we went back to the CEOs and the senior executives to understand, okay, hey, does this add value to what you think you were expecting? And then tweak that. So basically following a complete agile approach, you fail faster and I mean, move quicker. So that basically helped us kind of formulate and fine tune our strategy and execution, because otherwise starting with a clean slate and saying that, hey, this is what we want to do and just want to follow. It's important to have the vision, but at the same time, you need to be flexible to change that path as you go along. So I think that's where my cues will be on ensuring how do we make quick wins with data.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And at this stage, the poll results from the first poll is in. It should be popping out on your screen. And quite interesting. I mean, as usual, we have, oops, it's gone now. Oh, it's back. All right. We have a wide range of responses. All right. But the one that stands out the most is, I mean, what's the best way to derive value from data in your organization? I think 36% thinks that it begins with a comprehensive data strategy, I think, which quite a few of you mentioned, and get executive buy-in. All right. And the second closest will probably be start investing in a good analytics platform. Probably, with some off-the-shelf tools to get started quickly. Thank you. So before I go to the next question, one issue that keeps coming up, right, is always about the idea behind getting the right people to handle your data. And I'm not necessarily talking about data scientists who are really good, really skilled in managing data, but about the right data talent to juggle the business and the data science part of stuff. So let's run the second poll while we talk about it, about finding the right data talent. So my next question really is, how do you find the right or the ideal data candidate with the right data knowledge? Do you train, fire, or, sorry, I didn't mean to say fire, find or hire for a competitor? So what do you think? Anybody can just jump in?
Yeah, so probably I want to make some comments. So as I've been a trainer, a data analytics instructor for General Assembly, as well as a lecturer at Singapore Management University. So I find that to train the business professionals, right, those who are not whose main track or major is not in computer engineering or analytics, to train those business professionals to become a data scientist is like quite challenging, because they need to understand the math behind the data science. They need to understand statistics, and they suddenly need to code, need to start writing SQL queries, to extract the data out. And then, not to even mention the more complex data science algorithms, like putting them onto a visualization on, like, for example, Tableau, running some basic stats on Excel. It's still quite challenging, for some of them. And, it takes some time for them to get, adapted, or, to get used to the jargons, right? And, for them to even go deeper into the machine learning part, to the data science, although they are like, standard packages out there, like they are like an analytics platform that, are commercial off-the-shelf tools that allows you to, plug and play, meaning that you can extract the data from, Excel sheet or from your database, put it into this platform, and then you just hit the run button. It'll magically, run several data science, machine learning algorithms, and then gives you the insights. But, without understanding, the mechanism or the, the foundation of data science algorithms, it is difficult for them to decipher, what could went wrong, with this analysis. Like if you give in the wrong data, garbage in, garbage out, right? So even you have like a most advanced, machine learning tools, but if you don't know what you are doing, you will not be able to appreciate, or do data science. So hence, to find the right talent, for the job, is to find the data scientist who has experience in running the algorithms, who has done a deeper dive into the looking into the data. For the if let's say the question is, do I find a data scientist from similar industry, right? Is it better? So I say that it is good to have the data scientists from the same industry. Like for example, financial industry, we have jargons like NPLs, non-performing loans, or delinquents, right? So if you have a data scientist that already understand the jargons or the data or the business from the financial industry, it'll be good to have. But however, the most important is having the right technical skills, because if the data scientists have the right technical skills, no matter what kind of data they manage, like this data scientist has been can be from other industry that has been doing with customer data. So if you get them the right business context, the business domain knowledge, they will really help you to analyze this data and get the insights from your data. So I think the other way around of training internally the business professionals and turn them into data scientists might not be the best option. It might be a quick fix, but hiring the data scientists that's good from other industry into your company will be better. Yeah, that's my personal view.
Well, thank you for your talk. I can see that you're clearly very, very passionate about training up data scientists and people who can manage and juggle data. Thank you so much from your view. But for the rest of the panelists, any other thoughts or perspectives or comments you'd like to add in about this?
I think, sorry, Jacqueline, go ahead.
No, why don't you go ahead, Saurabh? Go ahead first.
No worries. So I think what Garrett mentioned was, it summed it up quite well. But from my experience, at least within the organization, what I can say is normally finding a data scientist, as we know, it's not easy, right? Hiring is such a difficult process, and finding the right kind of talent, and especially with the right domain knowledge, because when it comes to, let's say, an insurance, financial services, normally the preference is to hire someone who has a domain knowledge. So have those two skill sets, domain knowledge as well as the data science background, becomes quite challenging. So in this scenario, what we generally do, so what we try to do is, we have tried a couple of approaches. Practically, one is we have hired people externally, and then we also kind of, people who are power users in departments like underwriting, or where it is a very heavy data work. So who are power users, we kind of train them on, and we make them, the concept of this citizen data scientist, right? So that is what we are trying to adapt to ensure that we handling that skills shortage, and a person who is trained is basically has a thorough understanding of the domain, and at the same time, with the tools and with the technology knowledge which comes in, they are able to, come to the right level of expertise in the due course of time. It takes time, but it has worked. But if you want, if you're working on something really critical and you need the results very quickly, then this leisure of training might not exist. So it depends on what the criticality of the project or the outcome is. But so either of the approaches have worked within at least the industry where I am in. So.
Thank you, Saurabh. I think it's always interesting to hear alternate viewpoints, and I guess I can almost hear the pain that you are going through in terms of getting the right people to and then marrying them. I mean, getting the right people to do the data science in your organization, and clearly something that you probably have a lot of experience with, trying to get business people to get trained in data science technology. I mean, do you have any tips to share on how to make it go easier?
Well, the easiest thing is basically, I mean, when you look at, training a business user or a domain user on this, I mean, the best thing is to provide them the tools and the flexibility, the right tools and the flexibility, and the right training support without rushing them into things. I think that really helps. So.
Thank you so much. And I think, Jacqueline, you wanted to say something just now, right?
Oh, no. Look, Saurabh's said it very, very well. So, I'll only add one thing, which is finding the right data scientists can be quite scientific. Normally you'll get enough candidates with enough of the skill sets. I think what we find very hard to train, which people struggle with, is you can't teach someone how to recognize an opportunity. You can't teach someone how to actually validate the assumptions of an organization, right? And it's hard to teach someone how they actually need to learn to work within the business processes and the business appetite in an organization. And so I think where we struggle with getting good data scientists is probably in those sorts of skills, and some of them are soft skills, but they're also very hard skills. They're quite structured skills as to how you map out your assumptions, how you test out your assumptions, how you decide whether scenarios are the right scenarios, how do you actually then categorize and prioritize your assumptions. They're actually quite structured, hard skills, and you find that good data scientists are good data scientists, but then they don't. Some of them, or a lot of them, don't actually have these other types of hard skills that go with it. So I think we spend a lot of time actually training our data scientists to actually have a better eye, if you like, for the organization.
Well, I mean, what I say is really interesting, right? I mean, you mentioned that you can teach the skills, but you might not necessarily be able to teach them to recognize the opportunity. So they could be slicing and dicing the numbers and the figures, and there could be just this huge opportunity in front of them, but they might not recognize it because, they're just not wired that way. This interesting thought. Awesome. Juliana, any comments you'd like to add?
So for me, right, I guess, how would I say this is like, I still believe in a composite team effect, right? So I think data scientists are not easy to source. I agree with the other panelists and the good ones. And I think to match someone with a domain knowledge and a background might not be that easy. So usually our approach is to do the consulting way. So we will actually hire the consultants in, and then with the consultants in, they are people with the experts area. It could be just for a short project, a short contract. And then later on, what we do is we do actually infuse in our own people as well. So when our own people come in, they actually bring in the domain knowledge, right? They bring in insurance, they can bring in the lands, they can bring in legal and everything. So they bring in a different kind of domain knowledge. And with that, we do set up what are we trying to look for, right? So we might say that we have already started a project knowing what we want to look for, but it's looking for these validation points, right? Are we looking for something that doesn't exist? Is the market assumptions correct, right? So I think these are things where we have the consultants in, we have our people in with the domain knowledge, and we then look for the strategy where we validate or invalidate some of the approaches and some of the knowledge that we know. And one last point to add is usually at the end of it, what we do very strongly with the consultants is we make sure that we upskill our own people. So we do actually do knowledge transfer, and we do a series of the workshop. So the consulting work that comes along with it is you have to train our people. And then the workshops that you put up to train our people and to actually wrap up the entire project and do the cross-sharing, right? So it excites our people to think about data differently. And I think this actually makes them want to actually upskill themselves and to look at data in a different light. And I think this is definitely possible. For me, my background is in computer science. I then pivot to intellectual property law. And at one point, I went into doing insurance at NTUC Income at digital transformation. And I do ask that own question, right? I have no idea what is insurance about. And it is quite exciting where you come in with the appetite to do digital transformation, and you are actually paired together, all right, in a bigger team. One of our project team goes up to 30 to 50 people, and we have all the domain experts telling us what's to see, what's not to see, what is right, what is not right. And then we actually jointly do a team approach of how are we going to do the next steps. And I think this infusion of a lot of different expertise is a very exciting energy to actually look at things differently.
Awesome. So I like what I hear, right? So you are talking about bringing consultants together with your people, get them excited, get them, to envision what is possible, and then use this as an opportunity to upskill them as well. So that at the end of it, you walk away not just with a completed project, but with people who are actually, in some ways trained in certain aspects of the data. And in fact, this was one of the questions about the data democratization and citizen scientists, citizen data scientists, which we'll talk about later. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the poll, right? So we have said our part. So what do the participants think? All right, how do you find the right data talent? The highest is at 38% is find business employees with the right aptitude and train them in data science, right? Which is what quite a few of you mentioned. And then of course, the other larger sector is 28% of them think that there is no clear answer. The right response depends on your industry and specific use case. And then of course, the third 19% is get IT people and train them in the business side of things. Okay, that looks like getting the IT people and training them might be slightly harder, according to our participants. Okay, very insightful and very, very interesting. All right, question. One of the participants asked this question, and I'm just going to look at it now. All right, so Lani David basically asked, right, how would data democratization strategy help businesses get the right value from the data, and how would that strategy help in decision making? I believe what this participant is alluding to is about the concept of citizen data scientists, basically where you put data in the hands of your normal staff and say, hey, take the data and let's see what you can come out with. So any thoughts about this? Anybody?
Yeah, so probably I'll try to take this question. So okay, so the way how I interpret these questions is like, how will data democratization strategy, data democratization is, what I also, if I assume this correctly, as like, one single source of truth, which is, data might be stored, everywhere within the company, like data silos, right? Data silos. And how will like a data democratization, like, data made accessible to everybody within the organization, help the business to derive the, to get the right value, and how would that strategy help in decision making? So, I believe that, for data democratization or, one single source of truth, which is really, really very important. If let's say, the business wants to be aligned with the top management to the middle management and, from the ground level, that, they want to look at the data at a single view, like a single source of truth, a single view that, if we are looking at, the company revenue for this market for this year, and how can we improve that, then this should be the figure that should be disseminated across the entire company from top to bottom, right? So, and then therefore, when companies want to make the strategy, or decision making, it helps them to get this single point of view that, we need to do something because, these numbers are, either declining or, increasing. and what are the kind of the areas that we can improve. So this is how, you know, I decipher this question. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So what I'm hearing is that you have a specific use case, disseminate data, and who knows, there might be some people there who could quickly identify the business opportunity from the data.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think Paul, for data democratization is key to a company being data driven, right? You actually need to open up your data such that everybody that needs access to data will have access to data when they want it, right? And there are no gatekeepers, there's no bottlenecks to the data. And the goal is that anybody can use the data they need at any one point in time to make decisions, right? So I think it's a fundamental foundation of any company that wants to be more data-driven, intends to monetize its data, intends to use its data. It's like a basic foundation step. I think I would challenge people out there to think about data democratization, not just in terms of users, because where you have a set, and most companies on this, they will have different education levels of what is data, how to use data across the company. And what you'll find, and I've done this quite a few times, what I find is that when you democratize data in an organization that where the end users are not as educated about the usage of data or how to use it properly, what you get is a whole lot of reporting. You don't even get descriptive analytics. You get, I'll just data dump, and then I'll try to figure it out, right? And try to use it somehow. And that, I would say, is not actually data democratization. That's just, you know, you guys can just dump data anytime you want and you don't have to go get it. And more importantly, I think when you do something like that, you've got to consider, you know, that end result that you want your users. So do you put it in the hands of everybody? Do you put it in the hands, and with that, get your users to understand how they should be using it? Do you transform it for them, even though strictly you don't want to be doing the transformation? Or do you transform it enough for them so that they just work with outputs and insights first? So you do need a very clear strategy. I'm going to say strategy and an outcome of what you're doing with democratization of data. You know, I find that, you know, even some of the business analysts that you have in the business, they will say, oh, we're just create correlation models, and correlation means, you know, this will happen. I'm like, no, what you're trying to actually create is a causation model. The causation model, they're not correlation models. They're very different things. But because they don't have that training and background, they don't understand the difference. So they think they are actually doing a deep core analysis, but actually they're running a whole bunch of, you know, broad-based correlation models that you go, hey, you can kind of figure something out in your market there, but it's not necessarily data science, if you like. It's probably not going to get you the answer you want. It's going to get you the answer you made, because you made your model, you made your correlation models like that. Whereas actually, if they were educated enough to build causation models, you know, that's when they really get that true value of the data democratization. So I would say, look, it's really important for organizations to do that. But you know, that is the one step. My advice to everybody is don't only take that one step. You've got to take the one step with then the outcome you want your users to have. Because once you actually get your users using data again, where they're just doing data dumping or not actually making use of it, you actually have bad habits, what we call bad habits in the organization. You can't break that after a while. The second thing of data democratization, which people don't do, or I see a lot of organizations not do, is they don't democratize it to processes. They give it to users. So you can get any data, but they don't think about actually, when you move forward into a digital world and you move forward into a data-driven world, most of what you should be doing is democratizing your data into processes, direct into processes. Users will at some point in time not be able to outthink or outuse the data that they get, right? There's just that much of it. So I would always say your strategy and the path you take necessarily has to be, my first step, my recommendation for that is democratize it to a process before you democratize it to a user.
I got it. Thank you so much for your very, very detailed thoughts. I think it's clearly an area you have been thinking a lot about and maybe grappling with even, in the organization. I'm very curious, Juliana, what are your thoughts about this? Because you're trained in computer science previously and you went to different industries. So what are your thoughts in terms of data democratization? Does it work, or do you need to have a certain amount of background or foundation, or certain as what Jacqueline mentioned, steering it towards processes first before you get the people on it?
I think data democracy works, but it might be better to actually have an organization around it, right? So for us, how we do is we do have a data team that actually puts available the data necessary to the people that require access to certain products, right? So how we actually evangelize the entire model is to go via a product ownership role. So with each of the product owner in an agile organization, right, you do get the owner understanding what is the market effects of it and what's resulting the data to be performing in a certain way, right? And I think if you give access of the data to the wrong people, they might switch or sing the story differently, right? And this causes a lot of unnecessary tension in the organization, right? So I think we do have to look at the whole master data so that we are all looking at the same source, but we do have to let the product owner spin the story and tell it into how he has understand it with what the market trends is showing and what something that's happening on the ground, right? Because the data is only data without the human touch into it, right? So I think where the human comes in, they look at the data with a whole new level of insights. And we do have situations where the data was given to wrong people and they will be slamming this is not performing, that is not well, but they do not understand the background of what has taken place and what are the next step of actions that will be done. So I think that's the kind of approach that I'll go with. Do have the data democracy. I think that's very valuable, but do put the organization that will support this whole entire democracy behind it and split what you are seeing into different products so that sensitive information might not be translated to the entire organization as well.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for your really, really practical tips. Now, before we, our time is almost up. So before I hand over to Saurabh to hear his thoughts about it, I just want to announce the winner of the best question, and that'll be Lani. So someone will be contacting you after the event. So Saurabh, what's your thoughts about this?
Well, actually, listening to Juliana and Jacqueline and Garrett, I think this was most of the things about the democratization was actually very well covered. I mean, I don't think I have any additional points. I can try to probably summarize what was mentioned, but the whole concept, when I look at like democratizing the data within the organization, like at least in insurance, it does happen, right? So we do give users access to data, business users accessing the data and making it available. But we have to have the right framework put in place, not just from the governance standpoint, but also from overall management of that data. So the entire support system around it, what Juliana was just highlighting, because if the person who does not understand the data, I mean, they will probably not be able to make the meaningful insights, and then it could spiral out of control very quickly. So I think a good governance mechanism plays a vital role, along with a good support mechanism from the IT as well as from the product ownership organization, and at the same time, looking at what can we provide, right? So what is the level of data, or what is the kind of data you want to give access to, right? So that also plays a significant role when you talk about democratization of data. Now, in insurance, one of the things is there is a lot of sensitivity. You have the customer information, which is super important. I mean, you have a lot of regulations around it. So when you have all those constraints, I mean, in some way, it's limited, I mean, by design. So some of it is limited by design in certain areas, like, for example, underwriting data or finance data or claims data. cannot be democratized by any means, because that could lead to, or even if it is democratized, it will be limited to certain set of users. So I think overall governance, support mechanism, as well as the type of users whom you are giving that access to that data plays a very vital role, at least from an insurance point of view.
Thank you so much for your thoughts. Thank you so much. And let me just say that this I found this panel to be incredibly insightful, and I'm not just saying to make everyone feel good, but I think there's a lot of valuable insights from different perspectives, on different industries. And thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. So my time is up for the panel. So I'm gonna hand over the time over to Jonathan.
Great, thanks so much, Paul. Yeah, thanks everyone for your participation. There's some great insights there, a lot of learning that that you've all gone through. There's probably been some pain figuring out how to move some of those ideas and data transformation ideas forward, but really lots to move on. So for those of you, there is a private session going to Informatica. There's a roundtable, and for those of you who are still on this, if you would please, there is a link that's been sent to you in a separate place to join that. And please do join that now. It'll be starting in about 2 or 3 minutes, I think. Also, I'd really like to thank the more than 100, and I think it was about 115 people who were involved with this panel discussion, Digi-Live session today. And I really appreciate all of you calling in from all over Asia and participating in this. I am also happy to announce that this was our 3rd one of these, and we're getting a lot better at it, I think, but we do want to have your feedback because obviously with all that's happening with the pandemic, this is really about the only way we can hold events and talk with each other, at least until probably May or June. Hopefully around then we can start looking at some live events again, but we can still share these ideas, and we will be moving on and running our CDO Asia Summit, usually based in Singapore, but that will be coming up now on June 3rd. So you can even pre-register at the link below if you want to. And we will also be holding another series of these Digi-Live events. The next one will be at the end of March, and we'll message all of you and put it up on our website soon. We're just working through getting some of the panelists and working that out. I also would like to ask, for those of you who are left, if you could please fill out the poll that we have. It's kind of a post-event survey, if you will. So it allows us to get your feedback, allows us to work with, you've seen Daniel and Paul and Winston on the call, helping out with the moderation and the panelists. It gives us good feedback on what you need, what you'd like to hear about from your peers in the industry in Asia Pacific. So if you could just take probably 3 minutes to answer the poll questions, that would be really helpful to us to just figure out our next steps on our events. Is that being pushed up, or is that? Oh, I think you have to scan the barcode. Is that right, Daniel? Okay. Well, very good. So yeah, please do fill in the questionnaire, and thank you very much for attending. We really appreciated having you, and we look forward to seeing you at the next Digi-Live session. Thanks a lot. Bye now.